welcome back to our Victory Garden series. I'm Ashley Mariani with Pit Moss, and I'm here with Doug Oster, the organic gardener. And Doug, what do we have here today? This looks awesome.
We're going to show everybody that you don't have to have a garden to garden.
Nice.
This is a 200-gallon fabric pot.
Very big.
So, yep. I know that for most people you couldn't use 200 gallons. That's why I had brought out this 15-gallon one, but it's an easy way to grow things in. Now, I filled this last year with Pit Moss Plentiful. It grew lots of plants. The plants take the nutrients out, and so I put more Pit Moss in here, but also some compost.
Oh, wonderful. You know, I compost myself. It's a wonderful way to not trash all of your food scraps and actually repurpose them into a nutrient-rich additive to your soil, and it works wonderful with Pit Moss.
It is a great way to recycle,
Yes.
and yes, those two go hand in hand. And so whatever size container that we're planting, we want to figure out where the plants are going to go.
Okay.
Normally, when we plant a container, it's a big one in the middle we call the thriller, then something a little shorter, which is the filler, and then the edges is a spiller.
So thriller, filler, spiller.
In this case, though, since this has special lighting conditions, we only get morning sun.
Okay, you have lots of trees around here.
Right, so in the back is going to be the tallest, then it's going to get shorter to the front.
Okay.
But we will also use our spiller.
What do we have here? I mean, there's lots of plants. I see here, what's a little pepper?
Yep, we've got a hot pepper, and I'm going to talk about that specifically here because that is a sun lover. But it's a special pepper that I've grown for years called super chili. It's a hot pepper that will put on peppers in any conditions. Most peppers want full sun, but I wanted to have some cool vegetables like that in here. But we've got lettuce, dandelions, onions, some flowers. This is a plant called purslane, which is actually a weed, but this is a cultivated variety, just like the dandelion.
Yeah.
This is a cultivated variety of purslane called purslane on purpose. And I've got some basil.
Well, I'm going to have to stop you there for a second. Dandelion. So tell me why you would ever put a dandelion, which everyone considers a weed, in your garden on purpose.
Dandelions are the most nutritious plant on the planet.
Oh, wow.
These are a cultivated variety that don't make flowers. So we're growing greens. And in Italy, dandelions are a big deal. And because they are so nutritious and easy to grow, I love to put them in the garden. And I'll tell you what, when you put them in a salad, you just don't tell people it's dandelion.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're going to be like, what is this great flavor?
Yeah.
I'm like, then you tell them it's a dandelion.
Dandelion, nice. Okay, wonderful.
And so besides the vegetables in here, we do have some flowers. And
beautiful.
That's an important thing about your vegetable garden, is to have different flowers in here because we want to help our pollinators out.
Absolutely.
When we help the pollinators, they help us. The more pollinators we have, the more flowers we're going to have and the more vegetables we're going to have. And so in the back, I've got these tall flowers, and they're called balsam. And it's a type of impatient, and it'll grow anywhere. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to plant the back with these balsams, and they're going to be, at the end of the season, 3-4 feet tall in the back. Then we're going to put our peppers in, then some dandelions. I've got some bunching onions. I've got more plants than we can fit in here.
We're going to find a way.
But we'll figure it out. All right, let's start with the balsam.
Wonderful.
One of the reasons that we plant in containers, especially in this kind of mix of compost and pit moss, is it's an instant garden. We don't have to really improve the soil like we would in the actual garden. And so we are going to put these plants in, and they are going to hit the ground running.
Beautiful.
And don't worry too much about the spacing. Again, this plant can take just about anything, and it'll be fine. Wonderful. I'm excited about putting the peppers in next.
Yeah, and you know, I see lots of life here in this soil. Lots of worms and little buggies, and that's always a good sign. You should not be afraid, especially of worms in your garden.
I picked a super chili plant, some plants that had lots of flowers on them, and that's the way I like. All the way
to come up here.
Give about, right there is perfect.
Okay.
And I'm going to give it about 12 inches, maybe a little bit more for each one. And when they're mature, they'll be touching.
Wow.
The thing about super chili is that even if it does get too tight in here, it's going to flower and set fruit no matter what. I've grown it actually in conditions where it was under a tomato.
Wow.
It'll put on peppers under any conditions. Okay, this is a lettuce. And again, I love to split these up when they're that little because they don't know the difference. Remember, we've done this before.
Yes. I actually was just doing this in my home garden this past week, And I actually was wondering, so each of these, like I did some bib lettuce, each one of these could technically be a full head of lettuce. So you really do have, with that little lettuce seed packet, have so much opportunity for plants.
I like to put them too close together because then we just make a carpet of lettuce.
Okay.
And I will just be cutting these off, harvesting. They'll come back, we'll harvest. Again, the lettuce wants cool weather. That's why we're in this spot where you've got morning sun and afternoon shade. If it was the reverse, an afternoon shade, this lettuce wouldn't like it during the summer. I am going to put this purslane around the edges. This is going to be one of our spillers.
Okay. So this will actually come over the whole entire raised bed and have a really beautiful effect to it.
Since it's a weed,
grows like crazy.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, I've never grown it before.
Oh.
But I just wanted to start
Something
it
new.
from seed. And I've eaten purslane, like the wild varieties of purslane, and I love them. People make pickled purslane. And for the front, for our spiller in the front, I've got a flower here called nasturtiums that I have just...
I love nasturtiums.
I've sprouted
yes.
the seeds, and we're just going to put them on the very front.
Yes.
Nasturtiums are edible, and they don't need anything from us. And so that's what makes them... In fact, growing in this good soil, they are going to go absolutely nuts, because you can grow a nasturtium in just about anywhere.
Okay.
So let's
and
split them up.
Beautiful flowers, mostly a lot of like red and oranges.
Yep,
and you'll even find them in like fancy cocktail drinks. And you're like, oh, what's that pretty flower? Perfectly edible. So it's a great way to liven up your salads or your cocktails and drinks.
It's always a great surprise for people when
Yes.
you put nasturtium flowers in a salad, because when you eat a nasturtium flower, you get kind of a very mild bitter crest, or not bitter crest, but watercress flavor. And then when you get to the where the seeds are, you get the spicy surprise.
Yeah,
and
they are spicy.
I love to give them to kids when they come in the garden. I said, I'm warning you, it's spicy. And they just love it. And these things, they're going to grow and trail over. And again, we don't have to worry about how close they are, because they'll grow just about anywhere.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot left over. Now, this might not look like the greatest planting right now, but come back in 2 weeks. And speaking of that, I want to show everybody how our radishes and our beans are doing.
Can't forget about those that we started just a few weeks ago.
Yep. And so with containers,
All right.
so with containers, you need to pick the right size container for the right plant. We can grow peppers in about 5-gallon bucket, maybe 2 in a 5-gallon bucket. A tomato would be 5 gallons minimum. I prefer this size, 15-gallon. But for some of these other plants, for like greens, lettuce, the dandelions, those things, we can just make a little carpet in whatever the container is. And all we need to do is make sure that we keep this watered. And whenever we plant, we water right away. We don't go over to the next thing, the next job. And so
that's a very, very key point.
Get that water on there. And this gets them off all to a great start. And you'll see that these plants in maybe even just a few hours will be sprouting back up and be looking great. And I can't wait to show you what it's going to look like in a couple of weeks. All right, let's go over and take a look at those beans and radishes. Really soak these in, though. That's the idea.
Really give them a lot of love. Even though pit moss does hold a lot of water, I always, just like Doug said, after you do transplanting your seeds or putting a new plant in, give them a lot of love and a lot of water just to get them a good start.
And again, when we're using the pit moss during the season, we don't need to water as much.
Exactly, it's wonderful.
In fact, that's something you have to be careful about.
Yeah, just a little bit. Always do the finger test with pit moss. That's what I do. If it looks a little crusty on the top and dried out, just stick your finger in there and see if there's some water available underneath the surface.
All right, now finally we'll go see our beans.
Let's see it. I'm excited.
All right, Ashley, look at our beans.
Whoa!
It's only been a week, and they're all sprouted and looking good. And now, if you notice, my fenced-in garden has to have a fence because of that baby bunny. And baby bunnies, or bunnies in general, love little bean seedlings like that, so those are protected. Now I can't wait to show off our radishes.
Yum.
What do you think?
Wonderful. So we seeded these radishes just 2 weeks ago, and then we were thinning these out, and look how big they're growing.
And that's what I'm going to be doing when we finish up. I'm going to thin these out, and that's one of the fun things about radishes. These are edible, and we're going to have a little treat at the end.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the Growing Your Own Victory Garden series. I'm Ashley with Pit Moss with the wonderful Doug Oster, and until next time, happy gardening. Cheers.